Hello and welcome to my forge. Some of you may know I'm from Germany, so sorry in advance for any pronunciation mistakes. In this video, I'm going to convert Jamie Lannister from an infantryman to a mounted knight. Some time ago I had the opportunity to get my hands on a second starter set of A Song of Ice and Fire for a good price. I started using this box for conversions. From there I get the Jamie Lannister miniature. As mounted miniature I use a knight from the Knights of Casterly rock box. To be honest, I'm more a Stark bannerman, but a mounted young lion should always be an eye-catcher. The tools needed are cutter knife, side cutter, 0.5mm drill, brass wire also 0.5mm, and glue. For assembly, which will happen later, I'll use super glue, but I also use white glue to fill in small gaps. Two things which are also needed are hand lotion and green stuff. What I use the hand lotion for, I'll explain later. Okay, so let's get into work. First, Jaime has to lose his head. It looks quite rough, but whatever glue they use for assembling the miniatures, it's a good one. As Jaime's hand is cut off in the books and in the HBO series, he should be used to losing limbs, so I think he won't mind. The removed parts are put aside because they're needed later. The infantryman's body is stored away in my bits box. You may never know when and where you have need of a spare body. Now that Jaime is cut into pieces and parts safely stored away, we turn our attention to the Lannister Knight. I was thinking about keeping the shield arm. However, I decided against it, because the shield is too small in my opinion. I know that in the later Middle Ages, shields became smaller or were not used at all, because of better armor and changing battlefield tactics, decline of cavalry, etc. However, this is my miniature, and I want Jamie Lannister with a shield bearing the sigil of House Lannister. The removed parts also find their way into my bits box for later use. Right after commanding the glue, the head slides out perfectly and leaves me with a bare hole. So I have to use the green stuff to fill in the hole. For this I need the green stuff and the hand lotion. Put some hand lotion on your fingertips and on the sculpting tools, and the green stuff won't stick to it. After the destruction work is done, the reconstruction starts. The shield arm is still a little long because of the shoulder pad at the top of it. I'm shortening the arm with my saw and straighten the area with my knife. And it's the same procedure with the sword arm. While the green stuff hardens, I start drilling the holes for the brass wire to connect the limbs to the body. At first sight, this may look difficult, but it isn't. The first step is to drill a hole in the part that is to be glued to the body. After that, place the wire inside the hole and shorten it to the needed length. Then hold the part with the wire at the place where it will be glued and press it down. The wire will lead a small mark where the next hole is to be drilled. By using this method, it's not that bad when the hole isn't right in the center of the surface. And again, this procedure is used for all other parts. The head can be a little bit tricky, but not that much, so just don't worry about it, keep on working. And after working with this method for a few times, it will become quite a normal routine. After painting the model, the parts will be glued at their places. For now they're just kept there by the brass wire. Also, if there are small gaps, they will be covered with white glue. The gap is filled and the glue adds some flexibility to the connection, for super glue is very brittle most of the time. For now I don't attach the left arm to the miniature because again it's easier to paint. the conversion is completed, so let's start painting. The techniques I'm using are quite simple. One layer of color as a base, followed by wash, and as last step dry brushing. Jaime will be painted as the young lion heir to Casterly Rock and not as the Kingsguard. I'm beginning with the horse. It's gonna be white as a tribute to Jaime's future role as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and white matches very good with the red caparison. As wash I use Nuln oil from Games Workshop, which is followed by dry brushing with white. The horse's tail and mane are painted in Vallejo Game Colors Bone White, washed with Seraphim Sepia and again dry brushed with white. Now it's time for caparison, tabard and cloak. As Jaime is painted as the young lion, all three will be red. The base color is Games Workshop's Corn Red, which is then washed with Reichland Flesh Shade. Dry brushing is done with Scarlet Blood from Vallejo. By using these colors you get a fine deep red tone, which in my opinion resembles the colors of the Lannister armor shown in the HBO series. Jaime's face is also painted in 3 layers: Vallejo Dwarf Flesh, Reichland Flesh Shade and dry brushed with Pale Flesh, also Vallejo. Now it's time for the armor. For this I use Vallejo Model Game Colors Old Gold as a base coat, which is then washed with Agrax Earthshade. After the wash has dried, the armor is dry brushed with Shining Gold, also Vallejo Model Colors. I assume there's nothing to say about Jaime's hair color. He's blonde, so he is painted accordingly. The leather straps on the armor and the belt are painted in Vallejo Flat Brown. The remaining parts are painted in gold, with the exception of the sword blade. Somewhere in one of the books it's mentioned that Jaime not only has a gilded armor, but also a gilded sword. However, a sword in gold is a little bit too much in my opinion, so the blade will be silver. I started to like him especially after Vargo Hoat commanded to cut off his right hand. From this point onwards, he wasn't just a bad guy, if you could speak of good and evil in A Song of Ice and Fire, but someone whose world had changed dramatically. He became a man who was mainly protected by his reputation as the greatest swordsman in Westeros. He had to start over, and from this part of the books onwards, he became quite interesting, particularly the encounter with Brienne of Tarth and her adherence to the values of knighthood, even if she isn't an anointed knight, changes him. So now, one of the last bigger steps are the eyes. I always paint them very big, so that it's easier to place the pupil in the eye. After that, they are reduced to a normal size. And here he is, Jamie Lannister, the young lion mounted on horseback. There are no rules for this model, but I built it anyway, so I don't care. If you enjoyed the video and want to support my channel, then like, share and subscribe, or leave a comment below.